I was overwhelmed with all the PMP study materials that were online. There were courses, books, flashcards, practice exams, and everyone seemed to have a different strategy for studying. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I studied, what resources I used, what mistakes I made, and what I'll do differently if I had to start over. Welcome back to CWM University, where we learn together, and today we're going to learn how I passed my PMP exam on the first try. So let's go ahead and talk about why I went to get my PMP certification. During the time that I got it, I was in between my jobs and I was applying for more jobs. And I felt that maybe I needed another certificate to add to my resume to get to a different type of career field. Originally, I was in education. I was a teacher for 11 years and I wanted to move on to something different. So back in 2023, I had already did the Google course, project management course, the one that's on Coursera. I did that when I first stopped teaching to try to go into project management, but I didn't know at that time that there was more requirements to go into project management. I just added that to my resume and kept applying for jobs, but nothing seemed to be moving forward. So one time I was out in Washington, D.C. visiting one of my friends, and we were all just sitting at a table talking about what we wanted to move our careers to. And the topic of project management came up again. And I was like, I haven't thought about that for a while. So we just talked about what it would take to get a project management certificate, that you need to be certified before you can get a job in project management, and then the different types of jobs you could apply to by being a project manager. So when I got back home from that trip, I started to look into what it took to be certified in project management. And from what I could tell, if you got a job in project management, depending on what field you went into, the pay was really good and they offered a lot of remote jobs. And that was what I was looking for. So I was like, let me get certified and then I could move on to a different type of career. And while in education, I managed many projects. I was like, I should already have the experience needed to apply. I just didn't have the course needed, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So I was like, with that in mind, I was like, why not? Let's go try to do it. So I looked into it more online, and a lot of people saying, use this course, use this book, use these flashcards. And I'm like, it's too much. So then let me start here, see if I like it, see if it works. And then if I want to move around, I can. Before you even get into studying for your PMP, make sure you go to the PMI website to know what the requirements are to get your project management certificate. You want to know all the requirements before you start this, so you'll know in what order you should do your studying, your applying for your application to apply for the project management, and scheduling your test. You need to know all the requirements first before you start doing anything. Okay, we're gonna go to Google and I'm gonna show you how you can look up your requirements. If you're trying to get the project management certificate, I'm gonna show you how to find the requirements. So you can go to Google and type in PMI, and you can go to the Project Management Institute, go directly to that. And then once you get there, you can go to certifications, and then you can go to the PMP right here where it says Project Management Professional. You click on that. And once it takes you there, it tells you how many years you need leading projects. It tells you the prices, the current price, but the prices can change. And then you can go down and it tells you, like, is the PMP right for you? And you can read through this. And it tells you about the exam, 180 questions, and your exam time, you have 230 minutes to take the exam. And then there's different languages that the exam is in. Then also, you can go path to certification, and it tells you what requirements you have to have. You can meet requirements A, B, or C if you're trying to get the PMP. And it's some things you can go through here and read about to see if you actually can apply or you have what you need to apply. You don't want to study for a test and the whole time you needed something that you didn't have. So for the PMP, you do need a bachelor's degree or higher, or for section A, it tells you what are some other things you can have if you don't have a bachelor's degree. It also tells you some things you can do to prepare, different courses and stuff that they offer and all that. So this is just under the PMI. Just go to the certificate that you want to take and you can read through the information. Once I knew that I wanted to take the test, this is where I started. so I can read through to make sure that, oh yes, I do have this, I do have this, I do have that. Then I can move on with studying for the exam. I started studying for my PMP November 2025, and I finished studying for it in December. I'm gonna show you my calendar, kind of like a pacing of what I did, who I used to study, what YouTube videos I used, and all that kind of stuff. I started on November 7th, and I found Andrew R, which I'm gonna pop him up on the screen. I found him through TikTok. People was recommending that you use him to study, and I used his YouTube videos when I first started. I was like, okay, I want to do the YouTube videos, so let's start there, watching them, writing down the topics I didn't understand, pausing the video when I needed to. So I did that for 2 days, and then I came across this video on TikTok that says that you can go get a library card and then get free access to Udemy. And Udemy was a place where they was holding a lot of the courses that you needed to even apply for your PMP. So I was like, I can go get a library card and get these courses for free. Oh, me, I love me a good deal. So what did I do? As you see here on the 8th, I went to the library and got a library card. It was super easy, and there's a lot of things you can do with that library card. Let me know in the comments, do you have a library card? What do you use yours for? I know you can read books online. There's so many things I know that you can do with a library card, and I'm pretty sure I don't know half of them. So if you have a library card, how do you use yours? Let me know. And as soon as I got that library card, the next following day, the 9th, I started this course right here, Andrew's Udemy course. And you need 35 PDUs in order to just apply. Like, you have to have that done, and then when you complete the course, they give you a certificate saying that you completed the course, and you have to submit that with your application. So it took me from the 9th through the 12th. I worked on his course, and then when you go to the course, it'll just give you an outline, like you need to do this chapter, that chapter. You can figure out how long you want to work on it. At that time, did not have a job, so I studied. Some days I studied for 2 hours, some days I studied for 6 hours. It just depended on what I felt like my brain could comprehend during that time. So I would go through the course, watch the videos, and they had quizzes throughout that course that you could take, and they would explain why your answer was wrong. So if you got the answer wrong, they had an explanation as well, which was very helpful. So after the 12th, I went out of town and did some stuff. So then I started back studying on the 23rd and the 24th to try to complete that course. And then I started with the application. The good thing about this Udemy course, they help you with filling out your application, which was really nice and really helpful. So I used that to fill out my application, and I submitted my application on the 25th of November. So that was about 9 days of studying, trying to get that course done and go ahead and get my application submitted. So then I just stopped. So if you can see here, I just stopped studying for a while because I didn't want to keep studying and then my application was denied. I didn't want to waste my time. So they gave me a break from studying. Now, what I noticed with Andrew's course, Andrew was talking a little slow for me. Okay, everybody hears language differently and processes it at different speeds. And I talk fast. That means I listen fast. And if you talk slow, I'm gonna be a little like, okay, come on. So what I did do with Andrew's course, I put him on 2 times the speed. You can change the speed of how he talks. So I did that. So once I finished his course, there was another guy they recommended on TikTok, which was David. And I went through his Udemy course as well. Because I'm thinking, okay, I did one course. I don't feel like I grasped it enough to be able to take the exam. So let's try another course. So I did another course, which was David. And with David's, what I did was I would watch some of his YouTube videos like in that morning for like a couple hours. And then that evening for a couple hours, I would go through his course and just go through the chapters, go take the quizzes, get the explanation. And I would always write down what I didn't understand. So I'm a very like note card person. Note cards, and if you could see, my note cards are in different colors. I use the front and back. Any vocabulary word I didn't understand, any topic I did not understand, I wrote it down on these note cards. And what I would do is after I studied for that day, I would go through my note cards, whatever I had. Like, you know, the first couple times you probably had like this many note cards, but by the end I had this many note cards. But I would go through my note cards and just try to remember the things in my head. So by the time I got to the 11th, you can see on here that I took my first practice test. Now the courses do come with practice tests, and on the practice test you can either do it timed or untimed. So my first practice test, I wanted to do it untimed. I'm like, I don't want that pressure. And so I did it untimed, and you can see why you got something wrong after you answer it. They give you an explanation, which I think is really good. And those that I didn't understand, I would write it down. I need to connect it back to my mind. So I just know that's the type of learner I am. I need to see it visually. I need to write it out. And so my first practice exam, I got an 86%. And my goal was just a 70%. I just want to pass. He has playlists on his YouTube page. I would just pick a playlist and go through that for however time I wanted to do it. I would set timers like, all right, I'm going to do this from 10 to 12. After 12, I'm done. I would just tell myself this how many hours I wanted to study, and that's how I would do it. And then on the 15th, I took my second practice test, and I timed this one. So I used the same time as they would give you when you take the test, which is 3 hours and 50 minutes. So I, let it be timed. And then for that practice test, I made a 76%. So I was still good. I'm like, it's 70's passing. So as long as it's above 70, I was good. So after that practice test, I didn't take any more practices. For the month of December, I studied for about 15 days. I did take a weekend off because I needed a break. Only do what you can comprehend and what you feel like you have time for, and then, pace yourself that way. So another thing I did was I wrote down, I had note cards, but I also had a notebook that while I was taking the courses, I would write down notes. And I like to use color because it helped me differentiate just different topics. Like if we were on chapter 3, they might have been in all dark blue. And then chapter 4 might have been in orange. Or if I needed to write some notes, they might have been in pink. That just helps with the way I study. So if you know what type of learner you are, like if you need note cards, if you need to write it in a notebook. Some people just listen to the information and recall it. It just depends on what type of learner you are. So then after the 17th, I had already registered to take my test. So I decided to take the test at home. I've taken several tests inside of a testing center because I was an educator, and when I moved states, you had to take another teaching test. I hate taking tests in the testing center. It's always cold in there. The chair is usually hard. Like there's nothing comfortable about being in a testing center. So when I found out you could take the test at home, I said, why not? So I signed up to take it at home. And what I liked about taking it at home, I had the temperature, like I like it. I had my blanket. I had my water right there next to me. And of course, if you take the test at home, somebody's watching you the whole time. So you do have to have your camera on. So if that's uncomfortable for you, you might want to go to the testing center, even though they're going to be watching you in there too. So it just depends on what you're comfortable with. Signing in was easy. You got like a little tutorial that you can sign in prior to the test so you can make sure that all your systems on your computer were working. At one point, I needed to use the bathroom. And so I, messaged the person that was watching me like, hey, can I use the bathroom? I wasn't clear on like, can I leave my computer or not? You take so many questions, then they give you a break. So during that break, I was like, let me run to the restroom, take a couple deep breaths, and finish my test. So I did take it at home. I did prefer to take it at home. It just depends on what you're comfortable with. Do you have an environment that's gonna be quiet that you could take it at home? You do have to show where you're taking the test. So when you get ready to take the test, you do have to like video what's around you, what's behind you, all that. So just be aware of that. But if you have like a little office or something, you might take it there. You do have to show like where you're gonna have your computer, just so they'll know that you're not trying to be dishonest. Also, I'm the type that I get real stressed out when it's time to take tests. I don't know why, but I do. And I get real nervous. But this time, yes, I was still nervous, but I was less nervous because I was in an environment that I was comfortable with. And I could control the temperature and how much light was or was not coming in. Because when you go in those testing centers, they have all those lights on. And I hate fluorescent lights when they're all on at the same time. It does something to my eyesight and I hate it. So I was just so happy that I could take it at home and I can have the lights on or off just so I can see the computer and just have, a couple blinds open so the lights wasn't so harsh. So being able to control the environment really did help. Another thing I do want to mention is when you're taking those practice tests, you will see that they suggest like, hey, take this many, take a break, do these many, take a break. When you take your time test, do that. So when you get ready to take the exam, it'll be exactly the same. I'm gonna do this for so long, then I get a break. I'm gonna take these many for so long, then I get a break. Try to practice as if you're taking the real exam. So when you get to the exam, it's just like muscle memory. It's not nothing new. You're not shocking the system with something different. My exam, of course, I passed. I passed it the first time. I was so excited. Get it broken down into 3 categories. You have people, business environment, and process. For the people and business environment, I got above target. And then for the process, I got target. So all you need is target all the way across the board and you pass. I remember that day I took the test on the 18th and I got my results on the 19th. So if you go into the testing center, you could, depending on what testing center you are at, you could either get your test results soon as you finish your test or at least that day. I had to wait till the next day because I took the test at home. And I remember going out to eat with one of my friends and she was asking about my test and seeing, you know, like, how did I do it? I was like, I don't know. So we got done eating lunch and went back to our cars and I checked my email and it was in my email that I had passed. I jumped out my car, ran to her car, knocked on her window. I was like, I passed. I was so excited and it was such a relief. But I'm glad that the results came back that quick. So just a list of steps of what I did. First thing I would do is get a library card. Get a library card so you can access these courses for free. So that saves you some money because when you pay that application fee to take the test, it's high. It's a pretty penny. So you want to save as much money as possible. So first get that library card and you can decide what courses you like. And depend on how much time you giving yourself to take this exam. If you're giving yourself about 2 months, you can go through 2 courses. These 2 courses, I'm not saying that they're better than the other courses. It's just what I use to study. And then once you get the library card, go ahead and do your course for that 35 PDUs and apply. Then after you apply, then start studying some more and knowing what topics you need to study. They do have books available that you can read. I didn't personally go through and read the books. I'd rather watch somebody go over the questions and explain what's wrong and what's not, which I did that's what I use the YouTube videos for. They will read through test questions and go over the mindset that you need to have to take the test. You have to make sure that you have the PMI mindset when answering these questions, because when you're going through the practice questions, some of the stuff you might say, oh, that's the best answer. But they're like, what is the best answer based on being a project manager? So you have to make sure you keep that in mind. And those 2 guys that I did use, they went over that a lot and they mentioned that a lot. So after you go through your courses, make sure that you're using practice questions. Make sure that you're either writing information down, typing it, highlighting, whatever works for you, and go through all the practice questions that you can. And make sure that you do your mock exam. So when you get ready to go to the real exam, you're not shocking your system and you're not confused or anything. Now, if you have somebody else who's also taking the PMP exam, it might be helpful for you to study with them. I didn't know anybody at the time who was actively studying and trying to take the exam. So I studied all by myself. I did everything at my own pace, which works better for me. But if you have somebody that will help, then you should do that as well. What would I do differently if I had to study for the exam again? I think what I would have done differently from the jump, go ahead, day 1, I already have my library card. Second thing, I probably would have went directly to David's YouTube page and his Udemy course. He explained it better for me to understand and his pacing was better for me. So I probably would have just used all his YouTube videos and all his courses to go ahead and get my 35 PDUs and apply. Also, I probably would have got the PMI. They offer access to a test bank with test questions that you can do on their website, but it costs. So it depends on if you want to pay extra money for that, but I've heard it's a good resource. I never used it. So I might have looked into that as a resource as well. But I would have definitely went with David's YouTube and his Udemy course because I feel like it was a lot clearer for me and he just taught the way I like to learn. So it's up to you. You have to figure out what works best for you. Also, I think I might have done the practice test 3 times. I only did the practice test twice. I think I could have done it 1 more time just to get another feel for the test and to better understand the explanations. Because for my results, I got above target, and target. Maybe if I would have did a little bit more practice questions, I would have had above target in all categories. I don't know. There's nothing I can do to change that. But if I had to do something differently, I probably would have made time to take the mock exam 3 times. I would have did 2 untimed mock exams and then did 1 last one that was timed to see how those results were going. I really hope this video helped calm your nerves a little bit about taking the PMP exam or to just get you on the path that you want to study for this exam. If you're currently studying for your PMP, let us know in the comments. How far along are you? And what's been your biggest challenge so far? Also, please do not ask me to tell you what was on the exam or what was the questions like, because I can't. I signed an oath that I wouldn't give out specific information about the exam than what you can find online. So if you put the questions in the comments, I'm not ignoring you, but I'm not gonna answer them. I really do hope that in a couple months you can come back and say that you passed your PMP exam. I do wish you the best on taking it. Just take your time, take some deep breaths, and recall the information that you worked hard to study for. I really hope this video was helpful. If it was helpful, make sure you share it with somebody that you know that it can help. Thank you for watching this video, and you already know, until next time, peace out.